Hey everyone, and welcome back to another explainer. I'm really thrilled you're joining me today because we're jumping right into a topic that literally almost all of us have dealt with, but honestly, very few of us actually know how to name. You know that feeling when you're in a conversation and the other person seems completely, absolutely convinced they know exactly what your intentions are, even when they are dead wrong? Yeah, that one. Today we're unpacking this deeply invalidating communication trap known as the mind-reading fallacy. It's basically when someone claims to know your inner thoughts and feelings way better than you do. It's a fascinating and, let's be real, super frustrating dynamic, but by the end of this explainer, you're going to have a really clear, solid understanding of exactly how this works and, more importantly, how to handle it.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Why do they tell me what I'm feeling instead of asking me? Man, if you've ever thought this, you are definitely not alone. This one little question completely captures the sheer exhaustion of dealing with a mind reader. Think about it. When someone tells you what you're feeling, rather than just taking a second to ask, they're essentially overwriting your lived reality. It makes you feel profoundly unseen. Instead of a normal back and forth between two equals, they just go ahead and appoint themselves as the absolute authority on your own heart and mind. Let's break down exactly why this is so incredibly frustrating to deal with in our daily lives.
Section 1. Defining the core concept. Let's look at what's actually going on under the hood here.
So here's the formal definition. The mind-reading fallacy is basically bypassing someone's actual words, ignoring their expressed experiences, and substituting all of that with wild assumptions about their internal state. And the kicker, they do it completely without evidence. The source material points out something really crucial here. The mind reader doesn't ask for clarification. Nope, they just declare absolute certainty about your emotions, your motives, or your beliefs. And here is where the trap snaps shut. It forces you to stop whatever point you are actually trying to make and instantly pivot to defending your own inner world against their projections. Ultimately, it's just a sneaky mechanism for them to avoid genuinely engaging with what you're actually trying to say.
Section 2. Assumptions versus reality. Now, what's really interesting about this concept is seeing how this logic leap happens in real time.
Let's actually see this in action. Imagine a situation where someone is setting a very literal, totally calm boundary, but the listener instantly dismisses those actual words and immediately redefines the entire situation with this massive assumption of passive-aggressive anger. They'll throw out something like, well, you're not actually calm, you're just being passive-aggressive because you're mad. Do you see the absolute absurdity there? Your calm boundary is just completely erased from the record. The focus shifts entirely away from the actual words spoken and onto this totally fabricated narrative about how you supposedly feel.
And this perfectly illustrates that exact same fallacy, just in a totally different context. Say you're sharing pure, genuine excitement about this great new opportunity you've gotten, but then the mind reader reacts by hitting you with, "Oh, I know, you're only saying that because you're insecure and need validation." Right? Once again, the actual positive words are completely ignored, tossed out the window. They're substituted with this false projected story about insecurity. When this happens, your true inner world is basically rendered completely irrelevant to the conversation. The mind reader wrote the script in their head and they are sticking to it, no matter what the truth is.
All right, moving on to Section 3, your defense toolkit. Let's talk about how to actually handle this. Because the real question is, how do we respond with grace? Like, how do we actually protect our peace when someone is actively trying to redefine our reality right to our faces? Well, getting angry or getting super defensive usually just plays right into their assumption that you're the emotional one and they're the rational one, right? So we're going to need a much better strategy.
And here is your 3-step shield pulled straight from our source material. Step 1, you have to name the assumption and do it calmly. You can say something like, "Hey, I noticed you're telling me what I feel instead of asking." This shines a massive spotlight directly on the fallacy itself. Step 2, reaffirm your self-knowledge. You literally just state, "My experience is mine to define and I know my own heart." Boom. This grounds you and firmly establishes that you are the sole authority on your own mind. And finally, step 3, invite curiosity over certainty. You ask them, instead of assuming, "Could you just ask me what I'm actually feeling?" This brilliantly redirects the conversation back to healthy, genuine communication. It puts the responsibility right back on their plate to engage with you properly.
Which brings us to Section 4, reclaiming your story.
Look, the ultimate goal here isn't about proving your feelings to the other person. Honestly, they might not even believe you, and that's okay. The point is insisting that your inner world be respected. No one gets to author your inner story. I really want you to take that in for a second. You deserve to be heard based on what you actually express, not on the wild narratives that other people invent about your heart.
You hold the pen to your own inner world. So by recognizing this mind-reading fallacy for exactly what it is, which is an evasion of genuine connection, you can finally stop defending yourself against fabricated projections and just start standing firmly in your own truth.
But before we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a little something to chew on. What happens when a person stops merely claiming to know your feelings and instead assumes that every single neutral action you take is rooted in malice? Like, what do you actually do when someone looks at your completely harmless choices and insists they know you did it just to hurt them, completely without evidence? Well, that is a whole different beast known as the assumption of malice, and we'll be diving into exactly how to stay grounded when people project bad faith onto your actions in our next explainer. Until then, keep that 3-step toolkit handy, stay curious, and hey, thank you so much for learning with me today.